introduction, I think, is required, is deserved at this stage, because if you haven't met Michelle, what the fuck? Michelle, when did I meet you? Like 5 years ago?
A long time ago.
4 or 5 years ago. And Michelle was one of my very first coaching apprentices, and she is just freaking rocking the world. So proud of you. So proud of you, Michelle. Honestly, you know, it was a bumpy ride in the beginning. Like, I remember going through the apprenticeship with you, and you were that little dynamite ball in the group that had all this passion and this power and this resilience and this determination. And yet I put you guys through the ringer, like, you know,
yeah,
I did
it was life changing.
You know, the standard was up here, and you raised the bar. Like, you kept on going, fuck you, and okay. You know, and that is probably what has us on this session today, is because you've just published your second book, and we'll talk about this afterwards. Yeah. But it is that whole idea of we ultimately get to choose how we are going to play in this world, in this life. And are we going to play the safe game and, you know, get approval from everybody else? Or are we actually just going to play the wild game? And for those of us who are wild by nature, and understanding as well, not everybody is wild by nature, and that is perfect too. Like, we're not putting wild on a pedestal, right? Because wild is definitely not for everybody, and if it's not your authentic nature, it will just gobble you up and spit you out in the middle of the night. So
spit you out.
With that said, I'm going to hand over to you. So tell the peoples all about you and the amazing work that you're doing, and why you chose wild.
Oh, why did I choose wild? I chose wild because it's just not even a choice. Like, I've tried to live a tame life. I've tried to tone myself down, because society tells us to tone down, right? And honestly, Annelle, you changed my life, because you were like, sorry, but why the fuck are you listening to society? And I was like, that's a really good, valid question. Like, why the hell am I listening to what other people think I should be? Honestly, it unleashed something in me that I will never, ever be able to put the stopper back in, much to everyone's probably horror sometimes, right? Like, once you are unleashed, you are unleashed. And on the wild side, things are just so much better. The desire, the success, the joy, like, you just get all of it. When you try and stop who you are, when you try and stop your true nature, you get miserable. I mean, I've gone on to do lots and lots of study about it, but basically, like, Myers-Briggs did this whole massive study where they studied, you know, kind of what you were. Like, I'm an ENTJ, I think I am. Not that I really buy into the whole box thing, but they watched people that were certain ways of being, and then they put them into different environments, and those were the people that got really unhappy, and then they got really unsuccessful, and then they got fired, and then they, you know, so it has a real knock-on effect. If you're not being who you are, then you're not only damaging you, you're damaging the people around you.
And for me, ultimately, that is what Safe or Wild is about. It's like, what are the stories we're telling ourselves to be safe? What are the stories that we're telling ourselves of what is required in order for us to be happy? And if the story is making you miserable, change the fucking story. Just change the story. So what were some of your stories that you were telling yourself at the time that was keeping you safe, so to speak?
God, definitely about professionalism. And I just want to say that safe does not equal happy. Safe equals unhappy, actually. But I was buying into the whole professionalism thing, I think, because I've, like, qualified myself to death, right? Like the MBA and the teaching degree and the 6 other qualifications that go along with it. So I qualified myself to death, and of course I'd been in corporate and owned lots of businesses. So I bought into the whole professionalism that people needed to see me in a certain way in order to buy from me. And what I now know is that when I am more of myself, when I turn up the dial on who I really am, which is a sparkly fairy running around on unicorns, it just gets even better. People are like, I don't know why I feel like I need to work with you, but I do.
It's exhausting to not be yourself. It's exhausting to push down the sparkle. It's exhausting to be quote unquote professional. And I know I had to personally do a lot of work around that for myself, because for me, professional was always no cursing, have to show up in a certain way, have to walk with a carrot up my bum, have to, you know, say the right things at the right time, in the right way, to the right people. God forbid anybody should see me without makeup on in a professional state. So much pressure. And, you know, don't make mistake. I love makeup, and I love getting dressed up, and I love not wearing makeup and dressing really down. Yeah. And my biggest thing was ultimately, well, is professional really about me, or is professional about the quality of work that I get to deliver? Is professional the level of excellence that I know that I bring to my clients? Because me, in and of myself, and that's one of the reasons I changed my company's name to Direction You, is because it's not about me. Like, I am just the space holder. I'm just the creator of sacred space, but it's the client who's got to have the experience. And if I don't give myself permission to be wild, then what do I give my client not permission for? Yeah. Are you finding that in the clients that you are working with? Because I know you're working with some incredible women.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, they're just getting amazing results. And the whole key to unlocking it is handing them back their power. And once they're like, oh, that's right, I'm actually a powerful bitch, they're like, they're off then, you know. It's like it really unlocks some kind of secret source inside them. But everyone around them has told them, mums don't behave this way, and, you know, like all of those conditioning things around them just hold them back.
So let's unpack that a little bit. Is it that we give them back their power, or do we give them permission to stop giving a shit?
Oh yeah, it's same thing. Yeah,
right?
Completely and utterly the same thing. Like you can't even step into your power if you're worried about what other people think. So yeah, that is what gives them back their power, making them realize that they're a sovereign being, and that who they are is completely lovable and worthwhile just as they are. And when they turn that up, when they turn the sparkle up, that is the power. Yeah, and because we change flavor, right? Like as we up level, as we do more of the inner work, as we unleash more of ourselves, our flavor changes. So we might have been like a grape bubblegum before, and I mean, we might end up tasting like asparagus, right? Like it can be the total opposite ends. And the people in your life might really like grape bubblegum, and they're in the grape bubblegum club, and they're like, that's how they define themselves. We all like grape bubblegum. And so then when you change to asparagus, they can either go, that's awesome that you're asparagus. Doesn't mean I love asparagus, but that's cool that you want to be asparagus. But the people that really tie their identity to grape bubblegum will be like, I just can't handle it, because you in relation to me are the grape to my bubblegum, and I just don't get it. So you just have to let them go and go off and be asparagus.
What do you make of the whole identity thing? Why do you think people are so hung up on identity?
That's a good question. And you know, honestly, and now I think it has to do with a lack of oneness. You know, the division that we're seeing in the world right now. Like, I feel like this division is pushing us towards oneness. Like, I'm kind of almost excited about the division, even though it breaks my heart to watch it. I'm kind of like, people are going to get to a point where they wake up and they're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, everyone is a human being. What am I actually doing? And they'll come back to the oneness. And I feel like identity is actually fake news from society to keep us away from oneness. Because if you have a separate identity, how can you feel the same as everyone else? Like me personally, like my energy feels the same as a schnauzer, because that's who I hang around with all the time, right? So how can we be different to anything? Like, you can feel a plant and you can feel the energy. You can go and hug a tree and feel its energy. Like, there really is oneness, not just with people, but with everything. Yeah.
Your dog agrees.
He's agreeing. She's like, yeah, she's a schnauzer.
That is such a key point, I think, especially at this time. You know, I'm so grateful that I somehow got to a point in my life where I decided to have a core belief that everything happens for me. And so as we are going through what you and I are experiencing in New Zealand at the moment as a shit show of epic proportions, like, if I hadn't had that belief, I would have been so freaked out by now, instead of just continuously, you know, experiencing something in life. And of course, I still get triggered by stuff, and I still get knocked down by it. And, I wrote an article this morning, like I'm experiencing life at the moment like a pregnant woman, fucking hormonal and, bloated and joyous, and then crying and then going off your rocket, and just like feeling scared and unsafe and insecure and grounded. Like all of the madness of pregnancy is kind of like how I'm experiencing this year. And then I just keep coming back to that. And if this is happening for me, like, what is the gift in this? Like, why is this happening on such a large scale for humanity at the moment? And it is that whole, well, can we not now see that everything that we've been told to do, to be, to have, to be safe was a complete illusion? There is absolutely no safety in the structures that we have built in our current society for us to be safe. And our only other option is really to unleash the wild, to really go into, well, if I'm not hung up on my identity anymore, if I don't have to identify myself by a culture or a race or a gender or in any of those things in order for me to feel whole and complete, what do I get to be then? Yeah,
anything you want.
Yeah. And I think that scares people.
Yeah.
I think that scares people. So how do you help your clients transition through that? Because I know that's a big part of what you do, is to help them release all those social identities that they've crafted so nicely for themselves.
It really comes down to trust. I teach them to trust themselves. Like, I think people don't trust themselves. They think that when they get to wild success, they're going to become an asshole, or that, that if they follow what their bliss is instead of following a structure, that actually they're just going to lay on the couch all day and watch Netflix. Like, they don't trust themselves to do anything because they've never really met themselves. Like, they haven't even met their own desires. In fact, that's the next thing that I'm unleashing is Desire Unleashed. It's a 10-week thing, because people just don't tap into those desires. If you follow your desires, you get there. You just got to learn to trust your desires. Like, you're not going to turn into a raping, pillaging, thieving, anything when you follow your desires, because we are all divine spark. We're all God source, right? So why would you turn into anything yucky?
And when you think about it, the yuckiness actually comes from a denial of the true desires. Like when you are continuously living in a state of depletion and self-sacrifice, which is a big one in our current society. Oh, just sacrifice yourself for everybody else. Well, no, that's a little fucked up. I'm not willing to do that.
And it doesn't, and it's terrible. It's no good for anyone else. Like, if you are completely and utterly empty, you are wild, not in a good way. You're like up and down, you can't cope, you yell at your kids, you say terrible things to your husband, you're not nice to be around. Like, seriously, sacrificing is not doing the world any favors. In fact, because like my tagline is together we shall rise, right? And I mean it. When we are all high vibration, we heal the entire world. I don't think we actually have any problems other than a frequency problem.
Right. And the frequency has already changed. And it's changing again. And I'm so, oh my God, I feel for the people who are so disconnected from the whole energy thing at the moment, and who are not even allowing themselves to tap into the woo-woo field like we do. And we call it woo-woo because, we can. And it was so funny because my son was saying the other day, what am I supposed to do on holiday? Because your hun will go and fish, and you're going to go and hug the trees and talk to them. And I'm like, damn straight I am, because we have to be a little bit woo-woo to be crazy enough to be happy in this world, quite frankly. Yeah. And for those who are not maybe tapped into energy, and I know that you talk about energy quite extensively in your book, Woo Woo for Business Women, which, by the way, I finished reading. You guys have got to go and get a copy. It's amazing. Michelle, you have to drop a link in for them in the comments afterwards. But if people are not tapped in at the moment, and they're kind of listening to us and going, oh my God, energy, woo woo, like what are they even talking about? Do you talk a little bit about why this is a critical time to start connecting to energy, frequency, and what's going to happen moving forward?
Yeah. So we are moving into a new era. Like both of my books talk about moving into a new era, and we're actually in the new era now. Like we're not moving into it, we're here, right? So the frequency of the planet is changing, and all of those big things that you're feeling are that frequency change. And if you haven't done enough of the work to raise your vibration, feeling these new frequencies is going to feel like a train has hit you. Right? It's not too late. Just do the work, clear the channels, but we don't create space for ourselves. Like space is the number one thing. If you want to tap in, you need space. But where every spare minute we've got, we're scrolling on Facebook. You know, every time we have some space, we go and do something for someone else. Well, what can I do for someone else? Well, what about you? Like, do you spend time journaling in the morning and the evening? Do you spend time hugging trees? Do you spend time alone so that your soul can talk to you instead of this brain talking to you all the time? And if you don't have that level of awareness in your body, things are going to start feeling really yucky, and people are going to start reacting and freaking out. Now, that's what we're seeing all over Facebook with people like, you know, these keyboard warriors. Like some of the stuff they're saying, I'm like, you can never take that back. That is out there for everybody to see forever. And I know you're acting from a triggered space, but that there is dirty, disgusting, nasty that you can't take back.
And it's all from fear, you know, it's all from a fear space.
Yeah.
And fear is just the opposite of love. Like when you just choose to tap into love, which is the highest frequency that we have available to us, it's not that you never get scared, but you just don't choose to operate from the fear. Like you get to pause and ask yourself, well, what would fear do and what would love do? What would fear say and what would love say? And fear is never degrading. Fear doesn't attack. Fear doesn't feel like a victim. Fear doesn't need to be a hero for other people. Like all of that shit is shadow unconsciousness. And most people are still so unaware of the fact that they're under that spell of the collective unconscious, which is shadow based, you know, and that the work right now is to unhook from that and to get into the light grid. And I believe, like you talk about space and you talk about creating space for ourselves in the book as well. Isn't that what COVID created for us on a global scale? Like, hello, lockdown, fucking
which is why so many people woke up and went, shit, I think I'm an empath. It's like yeah, I only just realized that they're all waking up.
Yeah, I was listening to a song yesterday, that old song, you know, Where is the Love? Where is the love? And I was like, isn't it funny, you know, every time that we ask something, the universe says yes, and the universe creates our desires. And when I listened to the song, I was like, oh my God, of course, this is why, you know, the whole pandemic thing happened. Now, whatever you believe about the pandemic thing, and if the pandemic is real or whatever the case might be, all of this was created because people have for years been saying, where is the love? Why is it just about the money? What about connection? What about relationships? What about us just being together again and celebrating life and just being human? Just being human. Because when we don't allow ourselves to acknowledge that we are source energy having a very human experience, like, it is tough. I remember I used to self-criticize all the time. Oh my God, I should be further ahead. Why am I not getting this done? Why am I not being perfect? Why do I need healing? Why am I sad? Like I was making myself crazy for the human experience that I'm having. And now I'm just kind of like, oh, that's really interesting. Fuck, I'm sad again. Okay, what's that about? You know?
Exactly.
I don't have to judge it.
Yep, you get to feel all the feelings. Like none of the feelings are bad. None of the phases are bad. It's all amazing and it's all fantastic. Just like I've been talking to my clients recently about how your business goes through the seasons, right? Like winter, everyone avoids the winter. The winter is where it's dark and it's cold and you get to feel all the feelings and things get brought up to be examined. Well, if you don't hunker down and really examine the things, A, you're going to know how you do want to move your business forward. B, you're not going to have the energy to move the business forward. You're just going to be exhausted. So then how are you going to burst forth into spring and reshape your business? Because if you just keep clunking out the same old courses, the same old product, you're going to get pretty bored. You're going to be not excited. You're going to lose your desire, and then you're going to lose your success anyway. So the answer to happiness is honestly continual change. But I feel like we're so afraid of change. And I just don't understand why.
I mean, do you want to laugh? Because I just drew a card before this live and it says accepting change.
I love it. I love change. I think I had to move around so much as a kid that I just learned that change was always good. Like, and I learned to find the things that I could love in every single place. And when I realized that every single place was probably going to have something I didn't like, I learned to enjoy the space inside me. Like, my family used to call me Wendy and, you know, say that I was off with the la-las, because I was. Most of the time I was connected to something else.
Well, and at the end of the day, change is inevitable, and change is happening faster now than ever before. And I was talking about this last week. Like, we're literally standing in front of two doors and we get to choose. Like, are you going to walk through the door of fear or the door of love? Because by next year, our manifestations are going to happen like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're going to think something now and tomorrow it's there. So respectfully, you can choose to resist the change, and you can choose to stay in the safe zone. You can choose to operate from fear, but you will create your own personal hell next year.
Yeah,
like that's guaranteed.
Yeah, or because if you want to think those fear thoughts, that's exactly what you're going to manifest. It's going to be exactly either way.
It's the monsters, it's the demons, right? The demons feed on the fear, and then the fear actually just becomes bigger and bigger as well. It's this very vicious circle that people find themselves in, instead of just going, okay, I'm going to own I've got demons. I'm going to crawl in under the bed, and, you know, maybe I'm going to get my coach to crawl in under the bed with me because there's mothballs, and she'll like clear them out of the way and pull those demons by their bloody feet out from underneath the bed and just face the fuckers. And they're normally like Monster Inc. They're big and fluffy and kind and loving, and they just want the best for us. Your demons are not the enemy. Like, your thoughts and your beliefs about the demons, thereby impacting your behavior, that is the actual issue that needs to be addressed. And those demons always come up when there's change around. There's always fears that come up with change, because there's always growth available in change. And, you know, that's all that fear is a seed for growth, a seed of power for growth. So tell me about Woo Woo for Business Women. How did that come about? How did you even decide to write that?
Oh, just the same as all the other books that wanted to come out. They wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, people need to understand, like, there are a lot of spiritual women around and a lot of spiritual men. And there are a lot of women, you know, growing pair of brass ovaries, in your words, and getting out there and doing what they need to in business. But they don't realize that when they bring the woo to the do in the business, that's when the magic happens. They're trying to keep themselves separate, but there is only one of us. And what happens in our private life affects our business. And what happens in our business affects our private life. Like, you are just one person. You can't split yourself into 8 and have one for each wheel of your life, right? Like, you are just one person. So when we mesh it all together and you own every single part of you, you bring every single part of you to your business, the wild side, the sparkly side, the sadness, the everything, the woo-woo, the everything to your business, that's when your business will grow. Not until you can own every single part of you does it actually work. Well, it works kind of, but it's a struggle. It's a hustle.
I want to put you on the spot a little bit here, with your permission. I remember a conversation about dyslexia.
Yeah, that was a good story,
very,
wasn't it?
Very passionate conversation.
Yeah.
About dyslexia.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing that with the people today? And the reason being, you know, some of them are probably using that as a reason for not showing up and writing the book or doing the work. Or so many, right? And now kicked my ass for bringing a story, which was a complete another story, right, about the dyslexia and how I couldn't remember my whole, you know, sales call thing, and I was using it to hide behind it. Like, technically I still can't remember things, and so I just don't now. So I don't, like, I choose not to remember things and I just flow. Instead, it's so much easier. But I've owned the dyslexia. I no longer check for spelling mistakes. I don't give a shit.
I just don't give a shit. It's a part of me. Like, it's a part of my flavor. And people that don't know me will message me and be like, this is, you know, spelling error here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Fun. Have fun with that. You're going to see a whole lot more. And people that do know me send me a laughing message and they're like, ah, another one. I'm like, yep, another one. So I just own it. So I bring my imperfections to my business. Like, if you, like, my correct spelling is not going to make me a better coach. And that's all I care about. All I care about is getting the results for my clients so that they can shine in the world, because when we all shine, it's up. That's truly all I care about. So spelling doesn't matter a twat.
No, it's like with this huge like candy box with all the different types of candies in there, and it saddens me how many labels professionals have given the different candies, and now because the candy has a label, it thinks it can't do certain things, or there's something wrong with it because it's been given a label. And I know that a lot of people feel so good when they get a label. They're like, oh my God, I'm normal after all, because there's 5 billion other people who has the same label. So now we can all suffer together. Misery loves company. And it's just a fucking label. It's just a label. It's just somebody who decided to make sense of something for themselves. And then they go, and because I have a PhD behind my name, I'm going to put a label on it. And then all you people can go and like attach yourselves to that label and feel like you belong. Again, there's a new club for you to belong to. I listen to some of the latest labels and I go, that's a thing now? And they go, yeah. And I go, what does it mean? I'm just like, why are we creating more labels for people? Like, you know,
instead of accepting who they are, like, why can't they just be a human being?
You're magnificent in human form, and just don't act like an asshole. Like, it's really that simple. You know, fail frequently, you have a life experience, live it like nobody's watching, or at least as if you don't give a damn who is watching, because at the end of the day, they don't think about you morning, noon, or night. You know, you might be the latest gossip in the group or whatever the case might be, but they're obsessed with their own lives, unless, of course, they're bored with their own lives and then they want to obsess about people like us. But so what?
Yeah.
So what? One life, people. Okay, so we all know that we get to come back and play again. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, one life. Fucking live it.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're not living it, you're not fulfilling the purpose that you came here for, this one life. Like, you know? You need to be all of you to tick off the lessons and the change that you are supposed to affect in this world. And people think, oh, if I don't have this massive empire, I'm not affecting change in the world. Bollocks. You can walk down the street and do something that changes the whole directory of someone's life.
One conversation.
Yeah.
One touch. One insight. One smile. Like, you don't know. You know, at the end of the day, our presence is enough.
Yeah.
What has been your biggest lesson this year?
This year, what are we even in? 2021. At this time of year, my brain starts calling it 2022 because like I'm in the next year already. So 2021, what has been my lesson? To really keep my energy in my own sphere. Like, I've always been careful of the energy I'm around and, you know, careful of that, but even more so. Like, now I know the more space I create for myself, the closer I step to my truth. And the closer I step to my truth, the more exhilarating and yummy it feels. So for me, joy is about coming home to who I am and owning all of it. That's what I've learned by watching everyone else fall to bits. I've realized that actually the way that I've set my life up has allowed me to be really strong, and I'm just watching everyone else going, what are you doing? What are you doing? But I get it, right? Like, they didn't have the insights previously in order to set up their life like this. Like, I feel really blessed that I've gone through the things that I've gone through so that I did set up my life in this way. But you and I, like, we are leaders, right? We always get to experience everything first so that we can pave the way for other people. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely. And you know, for me, at the end of the day as well, we're leaders because we're not followers. We're not leaders because we need people to follow us. Like, couldn't give a damn if anybody follows me or not. I'm just a leader because I lead my own life. And I think that is probably a critical point for people to start reaching at this time as well. Like, stop defining yourself as a leader because you have followers or because you need to be in charge of something. Just start being the leader of your own life. Lead your own life, for God's sakes. Get in your zone. Like, shut out the noise. Stop comparing yourself to everybody and just lead your own life. Like, it's so much better then. and the really beautiful thing is that I'm learning is that when we do lead our own lives, we're actually all heading in the direction of love, prosperity, connection, abundance, well-being, caring about ourselves, caring about the planet, caring about other human beings. The more we release the identity, the more we become resonant with love with a capital L. Yeah. And then we get to trust ourselves because we're not evil, we're not bad, we're not all of the things that we've been told we are from birth. We are actually really freaking amazing. And we're really good at our centers. Everybody wants to love and everybody wants to be loved. And when you're just true to that, nothing else matters.
No.
Yeah. So how do the peoples get hold of you? Who do you, well, let me retract that. Who are you working with? What is it that you're offering them at the moment, and how do they get hold of you?
Work with soul-led entrepreneurs, so that the ones that know that they are here for something bigger than themselves, right? That they're here to actually change the way that the world sees things or does things. So I work with lots of product makers that do things in a whole different way. I work with lots of other coaches who are like, yeah, but who I am is weird. And I'm like, good, let's turn that shit up. So I'm here to work with the people that, I mean, they're already brilliant at what they do. They are already brilliant. They already know it. They're just a little bit afraid to like shine it out there in the world. So I just scrub all the bullshit off the outside and launch them into the world.
How do they get to work with you at this time?
The best way to figure out whether I'm your vibe is probably to jump onto my website, empowermentempires.com. You'll find all sorts of sparkliness and shenanigans on there. You can buy my book. You can buy my book on there. You can sign up for my free 5-week course, Becoming Magnetic to Your Soulmate Clients. That's a bit of fun and shenanigans, I tell you. It's all about energy. It's actually a cracker of a course. So jump on in and do that. Or if you want to just leap in and start working with me, I've got something coming up soon, which is called Desire Unleashed. It's going to be 10 weeks of fabulousness.
Awesome. And just a heads up for everybody who's watching as well, and I'm sure that you've gathered this by now. Michelle, like myself, are not the cotton wool kind of people who is going to make you feel good about yourself. You're going to feel fucking fabulous when you're completely unleashed and stepped into your own power. But the process in and of itself is not always fun. It can be dirty, it can be nasty, it can be lots of cursing involved, because ultimately it's your journey, it's your transformation. Like, you have to break out of the cocoon. Like, we can't do that for you. And we're not going to swaddle you in cotton wools to keep you stuck in the cocoon but make you feel all warm and fuzzy. So when you do work with Michelle, just know that this is a no BS lady. She ain't gonna kiss ass in the least. Like, what you see is what you get with Michelle, and that's what I absolutely adore about you. Any parting words, Michelle? I want to thank you so much for doing this. I'm really excited for people to get to know you.
I just want to say, if there's anyone watching you that is like, shall I go and work with her or not work with her? It changes your life. Like, it unleashed something in me that I swear can never ever be put back. Like, that is why I have thanked you as the coach who has done the most for me in my whole entire life in my book. Like, I sincerely and utterly mean it. You changed it. I wouldn't be here where I am writing all these books, serving all these wonderful women without you. So if you're thinking about working with her, do it. Do it. Don't even hesitate. Do it now.
You were a pleasure to work with. I had lots of fun with
Sometimes.
you. Like, Michelle is like one of my ideal clients because she she plays the game with me, you know, like there's no, like, you don't hold back, you don't mind getting triggered, you don't mind getting pissed off, but you still keep rising to the challenge, which is how I like to play. So yeah, that was amazing. Michelle, darling, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about Desires Unleashed when that comes out. And for anybody who's looking at Michelle's book, I loved it. Seriously loved it. Loved the sense of humor, down to earth, very practical, easy to implement, really like lots of solid things to work through for yourself. So it's not just a book to read. I would say read the book and then work the book. Like with all good books, read the book and then work the book. And yeah, with that, I'm going to say, honey, I can't ever see you playing it safe again. But I fucking love the wild. Love the wild.
Fantastic.
All right, everybody.
All right,
thank
darling.
you so much for joining us. And we will see you again soon. Have an amazing day further. Cheers.
You too. Bye, darling.